join the ranks.
Hey everyone, it's Ethan Merritt from GI Jobs, and today I had the pleasure to speak with a man named Lynn Westover, who's the Director of Operations for a nonprofit called VetPaw. So VetPaw stands for Veterans Empowered to Protect African Wildlife. I'm not going to take away all the thunder from Lynn, but he's an incredibly knowledgeable dude. He works within the company not only as the Director of Operations, but also as a trainer. He has an extensive background coming from the Marines. He worked in the infantry, the reconnaissance, and a plethora of work after that. Stay tuned with the interview. He's a great guy to talk to. There's an awesome article below. Check out everything through VetPaw, and we hope you enjoy it.
So my name's Lynn Westover. I'm the Director of Operations for Veterans Empowered to Protect African Wildlife, VetPaw. I've been doing work with VetPaw since early 2016 or so. It first started where I was doing some other different contract work, government contracting and civilian contracting companies, and I got a good buddy of mine asked me, hey, will you come out and help us do some training for these guys? They're getting ready to push back out to Africa. I said, yeah, absolutely. And it actually turned out like one or two of the guys I had known previously in my career in the military, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, I went out there and started doing training for them, mainly stuff in the firearms, different tactics, man tracking, and then the human terrain mapping, behavior pattern recognition. And at the time, Ryan was like, hey, I got to have you on the team. I'd love to have you come be a part of the team. And I had some other commitments, and I said, hey, I love the mission. I think it's a great mission. But I wouldn't be fair to you because I wouldn't be able to put the time and effort in. But we kept in touch, you know, two kind of old Sarges. So it was kind of nice, and he's a pretty good dude. So after a little bit of time, I was making kind of a move, making a change in my life, getting ready to head out here towards Washington because I'd actually met my wife during that time at that same kind of training event. And so her and I hit it off, and you know, so we ended up getting married and whatnot. So I reached back out to him and said, hey, I do have some free time. I can kind of help you out a little bit. So he asked me to help out strictly with kind of the training aspect of things when we go overseas and give training to African Rangers and to the law enforcement that are working out there, and then also kind of work with some of the information collection side of things. So said, yeah, absolutely. And then from there, I kind of took over as Director of Operations for just South Africa specifically. And then a little over a year and a half ago, going on 2 years now, I stepped up and took over as the Director of Operations for him.
So how do you guys pick the veterans that you're trying to look for? So the big thing that I saw was that this is potentially a really good route for people that are kind of in the shoes of like, hey, I was a grunt, my experience doesn't translate as well as it could, which it always does, but maybe they don't really chase those kind of dreams, or they don't really know much about a corporate environment. But then this is kind of like a chance where they can be with other veterans, know their training and use it, and then be a part of something that's larger, which is a very much the camaraderie of being like, yeah, like we serve a higher purpose, and that is always in the back of your mind when you're doing it. So kind of, how do you find these people? How do you really know, you know, like, do you see yourself helping them more, or do they end up helping you more when they go through that process?
Well, you know, it is funny. I mean, we have some team members that they had ultimately waited almost 3 years to become a part of the team. So that's the level of dedication for some of the folks that have come on board. And you know, the thing is about this job is it's kind of a special job. It's still a kind of a contracted job, even though it's not government contracting per se. You're working for a nonprofit. They're all basically acting as independent contractors, just like you would if you were to go, you know, work for some security detail somewhere or something like that. So that's part of the mentality. But the other idea behind it is just like you said, with those skills that they bring on board, you know, they're kind of being unutilized or underutilized. And I know for me, you know, a perfect example, you know, without boring you with the details of all the different schools and things I've gone to, but just even going to a college and trying to look at what, you know, transfers over, because when I joined the services at a time where a lot of these credit didn't really translate over like it does now for some folks. and when they're telling me the kind of level, for example, of math or whatever I have to do, and I say, you do realize as a sniper I had to understand trigonometry to be able to take some of the high angle shots that I would take, and understanding like antenna wavelength propagation and the math involved with cutting antennas for a high frequency comm shot that I'm shooting from, say, Saudi Arabia to North Carolina. There's a little bit of intelligence there, and I'm not just some quote unquote dumb grunt that is only good for one thing. So it's kind of nice. There's a lot of like-minded individuals, and they kind of just find us. So since then, I've and that's kind of how a lot of it was, is they would write into the info at vetpaw.org asking for opportunities when they can join. A lot of people flat out were wanting to just straight up volunteer. They weren't even caring. They didn't even care about getting paid. So for me, I said, just like any other, really good organization, you have to have some kind of vetting process. So the way I broke it down is understanding that, number one, first and foremost, while the average veteran across the board has a plethora of training and physical and mental ability, not all veterans are created equal. So MOS, or your military occupation specialty definitely plays in a role to that. However, that being said, there's some cases where I'll take a truck driver or a diesel engine repair mechanic or an AC repairman or an admin guy over some secret squirrel kind of, guy, because sometimes most of the time actually with this type of work, I need people who can do windows and do floors. It's kind of like the whole, hey Joe Dirt, don't church it up too much. It's not dirté, it's not French, right? So trying to look at it through that generalized brushstroke is what does this individual bring as far as experience to the table? And those experiences that we mainly look for is judgment, decisiveness, understanding that there's second and third order effects to decisions that they make, and what are the ramifications of that. And so those are kind of the qualities we look for. And the best way that I've found to do that is you have to get hands-on. You have to get the person in front of you. You have to talk with them. You have to test them. You have to put them in the situations. And so while a lot of veterans bring all these different skills to the table, there's other skills that they don't have. Your average veteran, even an infantry-based MOS kind of guy or gal, or even some of the special guys, they don't know how to do tracking. So we train them in tracking. We refine the human behavior aspect of, hey, how can I identify through layers of human behavior how to be predictive and proactive, and look at what somebody's showing me, what they're displaying me, because people will show you how to treat them. All you have to do is watch them, but how do I articulate that? How can I put that pen to paper and justify my actions? And so there's that aspect of it. But then the biggest thing that we do with our assessment selection is we actually walk them through, hey, this is what a week of your life would be like in Africa.
You would think that people would be like, let me take this a little more seriously. I mean, it's not going to be like spring break here,
Right.
It's going to be hopefully a job, and it is probably going to have its times where it's stressful, but you're also going to be like away from home. So that's good that you hit that, because that's a big thing that we always try to push, and that's what I try to push to people, especially like with my own freaking soldiers who are just having problems. And I'm like, hey man, like think outside the box here. Like, what have you done to like look into this kind of program? And
right.
If they tell me less than 3 things, I'm like, well, hey man, like we thought about trying to just do some extra research. So on top of that, so where do you guys get the funding? So I found your organization through a video from a guy that I've connected with before, who makes film productions. So I found him,
right.
Sam Calder, who worked with Tim Sykes on a project. I'm not sure when he was out there. It looked like it might have been last year.
Yeah.
So I found it through there, but Tim seemed like he was one of the people that, I mean, it was a big promotional thing as well, but what other places do you guys get like the funding as a nonprofit to be able to pay people, and kind of what does that
well,
look
so
like?
Yeah, it is really, I mean, Ryan Tate hustles he sits down with large donors, small donors. I mean, it's pretty amazing across the board as to when you look at the kind of the cross section of people that donate to VetPaw. But we're, you know, in all honesty, we're not a very big organization. We're still pretty small, and our, you know, it wouldn't look like a pyramid on if you were to look at like our layout. Like, for example, over the last year, probably had close to 30 veterans that we employed in either part-time to full-time kind of status as contractors. As far as from the executive level, there's only 3 of us on the executive level. So it's very, you know, it's very kind of wide at the bottom, and there's this little spike in the middle. And you know, for example, just the one property we're on, that's $500,000 a year to keep veterans on that. Over a third of that goes to their wages. The other third is for their travel, and then that final third is for just their, you know, their expenses: power, water, light, internet, things like that, so that they can do the job. Food. So yeah, when a veteran comes out, they get a certain amount per week, and then they get you know, all their food, lodging, and travel covered, of course. But you know, and they're not, you know, I wouldn't say it's, our thing is, you know, providing meaningful employment. So it's not like guys and gals are coming out to get rich. This is not like government contracting, or especially back in the heyday, if you remember, where there were times, I know for me, like at the height of things, I was making $750 to $1,000 a day. Those days are long gone. Yeah. Long gone. You know, in a lot of cases, you're lucky if you get that in a week. So, and you got to ask yourself too, you know, to what level do I want to, you know, what level of risk am I going to put myself in? It's actually a fairly, you know, what we're doing is really kind of more of a low risk thing. We're not out there kicking doors in, and we're doing the grunt work. We're doing the monitoring. We're doing the advising, the assisting. Presence, just the presence alone is huge. So, but yeah, most of our donors come from people on the internet who feel strongly about, you know, animal advocacy and husbandry and conservation. And we see, you know, we have supporters on all different spectrums as far as like politics and culture, and, you know, you pray, you don't pray, God, Allah, Vishnu, dolphin, and lamp, it doesn't matter to me. And obviously the biggest thing that I found out, especially my wife's an environmental reporter for the NBC affiliate out here in Washington State, and she made a funny comment about how when she went from kind of general reporting and stuff like that, because she's a multimedia journalist, to the environment, she's like, oh, thank God I don't have to deal with like politics and stuff like that anymore. And the guy that she was replacing just started laughing at her, because the environment is so politically charged. Everybody has an opinion, and some are very polarizing. So it's just, it's amazing the cross section of donors and supporters that we have. And yeah, they make it happen. So the people that are saying, hey, I'm going to give $5 a month, you know, that goes a long way. Or, you know, we obviously have higher level contributors like Tim Sykes, who's also on our board. You know, they give larger amounts of money. Jason Flom, Zoltan Bathory from Five Finger Death Punch. I mean, they huge level of support, and we could not do it without them. So it's definitely, you know, the bulk of that stick, so to speak, is going to those guys and the gals on the ground, and it's putting them on the ground. But it's good for them too, because it's a life-changing experience. And so you know, donors have the opportunity to come out and be a part of that experience too. And so it's you know, that's to answer your question in long. That's where all of our support comes from.